everyone, my name is Stephanie Krause. I'm one of Sineassure's co-founders, and today I'll be interviewing Stephanie Chan. Stephanie is a foam armor blacksmith, artist, and co-founder of Foam Armory, a foam prop component manufacturing company and resource center for cosplayers, designers, and industry professionals who work with foam to build props and medieval-inspired fashion. And today, she's going to be sharing her experience and insight into building a product for the first time, funding its creation and sale, and how to go about building a business around that. So thank you for joining me, Stephanie.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So let's hop right into it. How did you get your start?
It actually kind of started by accident. I was visiting a makerspace in Calgary called Fuse 33 Makerspace, and it's kind of like a community workshop where there's various different tools for artistic people and builders and people like that, including like a wood shop, metal shop, laser cutters, 3D printers, and whatnot. The owner, Shannon Hoover, or one of the co-owners, sorry, Shannon Hoover, thought I would get along really well with his other friend named Ben Eady. So he decided that, well, let's do some sort of you two have to meet up because I think you two will like have really good ideas together. And that's kind of how it started. So Shannon did a little introduction. I met Ben. Ben had various ideas. His background is movie props and special effects. My background was actually comic books. I was doing laser and 3D printing and stuff like that. So we kind of already had like a good base of common interests, and we kind of just took it from there. We kind of wanted to do like fun things with cosplay and foam and using the laser cutter, and it just kind of all of a sudden, next thing we knew, Ben developed a way to create a foam chainmail that looks realistic, that's super easy to put together, and it's much cheaper and easier on your hands than the previous traditional way people would make chainmail for movies, which includes taking ABS pipe and slicing it like bread, and then like actually have to hand join all the little slices together, and it would just cause havoc on your hands and remove your fingerprints, or as Ben says, it removes your soul. And and so this was like a super easy, fun way, and we kind of ran with it after that.
Oh, that's awesome. So it's definitely improving on kind of an existing process and then creating something out of a different material that saves you so much work.
Yeah, and just to be clear, like foam has been a long time traditional material for cosplayers because it's paintable, it's easy to mold, it lasts a little heat, and then it retains its shape, EVA foam specifically. And so people have been using this for a long time already. So we're just kind of adding a different way to treat the foam to make it a realistic type of armor.
Okay, awesome. And did you kind of start off using it for your own projects first and then go from there? Or how did you first start using it?
That's kind of a funny story because it's more of a so after Ben kind of came up with the chainmail idea, we're like, oh, this is so badass, right? Now we need to do a scale mail version, and then we did a scale mail version. Ben, bless his heart, and he is a very creative person. But at the same time, his envision was very much still like very traditional, medieval, like replica type stuff, and a lot of that was happening. So, for example, like here's the chainmail. So this is a replica of like the King Arthur crown from Monty Python, made by our friend Thomas Hanna from Much Props, and that's the chainmail. It's super light, really squishable, and whatever. So that's kind of what Ben had in mind, and I was like, oh no, we could do so much more with it. We're gonna run with this baby. And so I actually took the chainmail and the scale mail original prototypes that we had, the prototype designs that we had, laser cut a whole bunch out, and I submitted this idea to do like a scale mail corset top with like a chainmail skirt for Make Fashion, and we were this was kind of a proof of concept thing. So I entered it and it was in the Make Fashion 2019 runway show. Make Fashion is a fashion technology show. And it was during the Beakerhead Arts and Engineering Festival. So it was just everything was like right up our alley. And I just let her on the runway, and there we go. And then that kind of like proved to us that, oh, we have something that we can use for all sorts of different fun things.
Oh, that's fantastic. So it's definitely not just for kind of medieval applications, for sure.
Yeah. And originally, even though originally in mind, it's like, oh, we've all this medieval replica stuff like that, and I was like, oh no, we're running with this. This is too good. We can't just do just that sort of thing. And then like from there, from me doing stuff like that, he made like a little chainmail bow tie for himself, things like that. So we were already playing around quite a bit.
Oh, that's awesome. So you started off kind of using it for your own projects. Can you tell me what it was like kind of getting into the sales aspect of it once you kind of worked out the kinks? I assume you worked out the kinks kind of on your own and then moved it to kind of selling it from there.
So it's kind of weird how much things happen in tandem. So meanwhile, while I was doing the Make Fashion runway show, Ben got a job on the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie as one of the props people. And part of his gig sent him to California. So he ended up meeting one of the other prop masters on the set, which was Adam Savage from Mythbusters. And when Ben pulled out the chainmail and showed it to Adam, Adam was so blown away by it. He actually filmed an episode with Ben while Ben was still in California to show off the chainmail. And that was actually, I think it was actually filmed in the fall, and I don't think it aired till end of January 2020. Yes, that's right. So it was end of January 2020. Adam ran that episode. And meanwhile, we kind of knew that this was going to happen, and we talked about what we're going to do. So like, oh, well, why don't we sell like pre-cut sheets, because not everyone owns a laser cutter, and make it like really accessible to everybody. That was the initial idea. But once the Adam episode ran, all of a sudden, we realized that we had to scale up very quickly, because that morning, as we literally put together the web store in the morning over breakfast, having my eggs Benny, we met up at a cafe and we built our web store, and then the sales started pouring in, and then that weekend we had 300 sales, and it was like instant business, like just add Adam Savage almost, and and then we realized we had to scale up fast, because as much as we love the laser cutter, it takes for 2 sheets of the foam, it takes almost like 8 to 10 minutes to cut it out. And if we're going to sell, like we wanted to sell 10 packs, we needed to scale up very quickly. So immediately, as the pre-orders were coming in, we immediately started looking into getting a die press. And I'd say within 2 weeks we had a die press and like our own little like hand press roller thing.
Wow, so it's like it's basically like a crash course in like both fabrication. It sounds like it was everything at once. Which I mean, is the greatest part about any kind of origin story where you've got that kind of viral takeoff, where it's like, influencer marketing kicked in right before you had any kind of inkling of what it was going to be. Suddenly you had sales. Suddenly it was dealing with scale and manufacturing and going from like a prototype type setup to an actual full blown manufacturing type setup. What did that feel like?
It was crazy. It was so insane. It was like, oh my gosh, like this is actually happening. We're actually making it happen. So the fun part, or not so fun part, honestly, was trying to find a place that can cut our die, because our die, honestly, the die is quite intricate for the chainmail, and a lot of places that would fabricate something like that, they just wouldn't take on the job. Eventually, found a place in Ontario. So they were like, oh yeah, no problem, right? And their turnaround was very quick. And in the meantime, we've got our die press, which is it's a manual roller. It's almost like similar to what you see crafters use for their like little paper cutout things, but like a larger scale one sort of thing. So it's like more of a desktop size machine. Yeah, and it's a little heftier too. But now we went from taking that 8 to 10 minutes to do 2 sheets to seconds.
Oh wow!
Just because you can just feed it through and keep it rolling, feed it through and keep it rolling. And then we were able to fulfill all our orders very quickly. That was so cool. And the fact that we were able to, like, I guess it was out of necessity basically. And we're like, okay, we need to do this. We need to make this work, and we want to make everyone happy. So and we just jumped on it, and it was just like a solid couple of weeks of getting this all together. There was drives to Leduc and Edmonton and places like that. And luckily I didn't mention this earlier. Luckily, I already had a pre-existing background with foam, because I was doing things like I was working in orthotics, so I knew of some foam distributors, but also my background, I previously worked in retail in a comic book shop, so I knew about places where I can get foam for crafts and other things. So I was able to utilize my previous knowledge and just set up a wholesale account. We got in a whole pile of foam, and then we're off to the races.
Wow, so really just kind of pulling like every piece of knowledge between the two of you together.
Yeah, totally, for sure.
Absolutely. So you got the orders filled. Kind of, what did you do next?
So the pandemic. This was like right around when the pandemic happened. Of course. That's right. Because I was starting to have lofty dreams right before this. I was having lofty dreams that we're going to have like a release party and like a grand opening party or business party, and then we're going to tour all the Comic Cons in the summer and the whole works, and boom, like pandemic hit. So we're like, okay, well that's not going to happen. And for a bit, I set up at home to do all my die press things. I had stacks of foam. I had like foam scraps everywhere. My whole room was just foam, walls of foam. And unfortunately, it wasn't really working out, everybody being at home, because some people need more space than others, kind of thing. And luckily, I was able to fall back to Fuse 33 to set up my operation. So I was still kind of going to work, but so I had my little like office space here, and then I just kept cranking out the foam. And then we bought like a little shipping label machine and the whole works, and just started shoveling the envelopes and shipping it all out. And lucky for us, we still had sales trickle in throughout the whole year, even without the shows. Probably not the same amount of sales that if we were able to actively attend the anime shows and comic book conventions and things like that. But at the same time, I'm pretty impressed how much sales were still happening regardless.
That's awesome. That's really great to hear because I know a lot of businesses, like when you do rely on that face-to-face communication and that kind of face-to-face, well, FaceTime when you're launching a new product, it can be really difficult. So it's great to hear that, it still came through. I want to bring you back to one thing that you said that I found interesting was that you started off with the chain mail and then went straight into the scale mail. Like what was kind of the time frame between developing your first product into moving into your second product?
Okay, so I guess I should explain that a little more clearly. So in the beginning, when we're prototyping and things like that, and just using the laser, so back to summer 2019, yeah, we had the chain mail pretty much right away, and then we played around and got the scale mail. So by fall 2019 for the fashion show, we had like a scale mail that we're happy with. But when we did the web store, we only launched the chain mail. So with the scale mail, we actually went back to the drawing board and prototyped a few different designs, a more rounded one, which would look like more like fish scales versus more pointy ones, which is kind of like more like the dragon scales. And then like if you look at the historical differences between scale mail, there's so many different kinds. There's like more large square ones. So we were trying to figure out what we can settle with. And we actually did customer like research. We asked our base like, hey, what do you want to see next? And like everyone was like pretty much unanimous scale mail. And then we said, well, what kind of shape? And by far, people lean towards the little more pointy shape as opposed to the more rounded scale, fishy shape. So, and then that's kind of what happened. And then we played with that a little bit, and then we went back to our die cutter manufacturer. We had another die made that's still compatible with our press for this next release. So the scale mill actually didn't release to the customers till now, like a year after the chain.
Okay, that makes sense. And so kind of the first product that you built, was it self-funded?
Yeah, so this is the interesting thing and a little bit almost mind-blowing because I know a lot of businesses, especially in the first year, they kind of struggle and they don't expect to make a profit. With us, because we went viral right away on day one, we were able to use the money from the pre-sales to invest in all of the foam and all of the equipment that we needed and then ship everything out. So like we were in a very fortunate and possibly more rare situation where we had already had the money to put into the business. And we actually never, aside from doing those prototypes earlier on in the fashion show and things like that, we never really actually invested our own money into the business. It's been feeding itself.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to go from like kind of that self-funded pre-sales model that you did with the chain mail and then go for the Kickstarter approach with the scale mail?
So it in a way, it's kind of similar because Kickstarter still lets you do pre-sales and still obtain like the funds up front. So we're kind of doing something similar, but Kickstarter also gives us a marketing platform that we didn't have before. So we're kind of hoping that we can outreach to more people using Kickstarter. Another advantage of Kickstarter is if you do go viral about it, like people it's a kind of a buzzword almost think, oh, I made my goal on Kickstarter, that kind of thing. So there's a few advantages of using Kickstarter for our pre-sales instead. And it's also nice because we spent the last year, for example, we didn't have any packaging for the chain mail. We're just shoving sheets of foam into envelopes and sending it out, sort of thing. And I know there's been retail businesses interested in carrying the product, so we want to expand into that. We want to be able to package and properly label everything, so that way retail stores can carry it too. So the Kickstarter, on the one hand, is funding our pre-orders for the scale mail. On the other hand, it is also facilitating us to grow the business as well.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, you've had a pretty successful Kickstarter. You and I have been talking about it, and I keep, remarking that it's so incredible that you've 10x your funding goal.
Right.
Where I know a lot of Kickstarter projects really struggle. What do you think really made the difference between, say, your project, which has done so well, and others that have really kind of struggled to get off the ground?
Well, one of them, I know it's because it's a bit of a unique product. Another one is that we both have a pretty good network. So we were able to utilize, again, Adam Savage made another video for us. And so that 10 days into the Kickstarter, once he uploaded his video, we went viral. We also, over the last year, we've actually made friends in the cosplay industry. For example, Thomas from Much Props, he's fantastic. He made so many different things and he's uploading his videos of the builds using our products during the Kickstarter. So every Friday he's had a new video featuring our items. And so again, so here's another one of his, for example. So he made this mask and it uses like a little bit of the chainmail, for example. So this was an older one before the scale mail was developed. But he has a subscription audience. I think he has about 50,000 people watching his YouTube channel. So things like that help. So we're a lot of it is networking. A lot of it is good word of mouth. I know, like I've been posting regularly on my social media channels. I have a pretty decent sized following, and I'm kind of hoping they just keep spreading out to their followings. And it's kind of funny when you see people come back to you and says, "Oh my God, I saw your thing on this group I'm in," or whatever. And it's still kind of tickles you pink. You're like, "Oh, I made it out that far." And I even hilariously found a group that was criticizing the armor because they're diehard metal chainmail workers. So they're like, "Oh, who would want foam?" kind of thing, you know. And I honestly, I love you guys who do the metal work, and it's completely different. We're not competing against you, okay? So, but that's not never our intention. It's just this is just like a costumey like thing, as opposed to if you want to do something really nice and accurate, definitely go with the metal.
Absolutely. That's awesome. You know, you've made it when you've got people who are actively like criticizing what you're doing because they're like, I have such a strong negative opinion about this product that, you know, it's relatively new and people don't know about that I have to share it with everybody. And I mean, what does they say? Like, all publicity is good publicity?
Yeah, that's true, actually, you know. And it was just so funny to read that because it never occurred to me that I could accidentally feel like I'm stepping on other people's toes, especially here at Fuse, because there's a couple of people who do make armor. And with metal in the metal shop, there's actually a guy right now forging a sword right now as we speak. So yeah, so it's really funny to like no, like we're friendly, we don't mean any harm.
Oh, that's awesome. So it sounds like it's been like quite the learning process to go through this and just kind of get all these different experiences and a lot of things you didn't expect.
Oh yeah, for sure, totally. And it's so organic, and you never know what's going to happen, no matter how hard or how much preparation you have. Honestly, you got to sometimes go with the flow, or you just got to be on your toes.
Absolutely. So knowing what you do now, is there anything, if you were to do this all over again, like be kind of in the same situation, is there anything that you would do differently?
Well, with the Kickstarter itself, I think, and that's funny because I've helped other people with their Kickstarter before, but when it's your own, all of a sudden it's a different game. And there's like a lot of little things like I needed to I think if I paid attention to some more details or planned it a little bit more, that would have been better. I didn't expect us to be at almost 10 times our goal, for example. So like I almost felt like I was a little bit scrambling about like, oh my gosh, you know, like now what do we do? Now what do we do next? Like what's the next step? Because we blew past our goal. What can we do now that we can continue to grow the business, that we've reached this point, sort of thing? Do we need are we able to handle this kind of volume? Things like that. I actually sat down and crunched the numbers last night, and I'm like laughing. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is still possible. Like like I'm just kind of like a little bit mind blown. And I did some things correctly by accident, which made me feel good. So like, for example, one of the things I did in the Kickstarter is I offered early bird, and then I also offered like regular. So I kind of staggered the release. Early birds get it right away the first month, and then for June, and then July it'd be like the regular stuff ship. That actually was a very good buffer to have, because with the volume that we're shipping out now, I can ship the first 100. In the meantime, the next foam order can come in, process it, and get it out for July. So there's like a lot of little things that now I know I should be consciously aware that I accidentally did, that kind of thing. But overall, like, you almost can't prepare for it. And I realized that I almost wish I offered a few other different levels for variety in the beginning, because I realized there's certain sweet spots. Like, oh no, some people really want to spend around the $150 range, and I wouldn't have guessed, that kind of thing. So I threw together on the fly in the middle of the campaign a $150 package, and that's been doing pretty well too. So who knew?
Oh, that's awesome. So it's all these little kind of tips and tricks that you've learned.
Yeah, and at the same time, sometimes it's just you never knew who your audience is when you're especially when you're exploding from going viral. All of a sudden you have a new audience from the last one that you've spoken to, and they could be a quite different crowd and expect different things. So you just have to be a little bit agile and mobile, kind of thing, and just be flexible.
Yeah, for sure. Let's dive into that a little bit further. So who was kind of your primary audience going in?
I would say the most of them were probably the cosplayers. And I would say cosplay is quite, even though it's a niche market, it's very, very large. And these are the people who do a lot of home builds. They're looking for affordable ways to do it. A lot of comic conventions will have metal detectors coming in, so they have restrictions of what you can wear. In many cases, they travel, so to have a product that's light and airport friendly, it's not going to set off the metal detectors, and it's not going to add extra luggage weight. There's huge advantages for people like that.
Okay, and is the foam fairly durable for them as well?
It's surprisingly durable, because once you knit it together, and especially if you hit it with just a little bit of paint, so this has a bit of acrylic paint on it, it actually has stretch, and it actually stands up pretty well. I don't know if it can last, say, if you're going into like a full on like a martial arts battle. Like, I could see it possibly like being ripped or being stretched too much or whatever with too much movement. But definitely for this right now, like for things like this, and as for accents and just like wearing a shirt or whatever, just wearing it without like actually doing like full on like physical flips and throws, I think it should last okay. Now that you asked that, I actually might make myself something just so I can I take Taekwondo, so maybe I should just do a little bit of like more harder work on it. But at the same time, to also as a part of this question, is we were trying to solve the problem of using tougher foam more durable things. So I've actually, in the whole time as we were growing the business, I keep looking into new materials and looking into other options. And so like, don't be surprised if in the future we do come out with a tougher foam or some other really cool material. And something else that a lot of people ask about is leather too. So that's also something we definitely want to look into. Our facility isn't quite ready for leather right now, but again, like as we grow things, we hope to get into things like that.
Awesome. And is that something that came out of your cosplayer niche or kind of the expanded niche that came out of this?
The expanded niche. So a lot of bikers are really interested in this idea of like having leather that is tightly woven and really cool looking. So that's a chain. And I'll keep pulling out the chain. I should pull out the scale. So let's pull out some scale so we can show you. Yeah. So this is the scale. So it's layered. Now, if you can have like lots of leather that layer, and something that was pointed out was because here's the backside. So the air can still kind of go through. So it's a little bit breathable.
Oh, awesome.
So a lot of people who are like, we've already had like people who are bikers are like very interested in giving that a try. So that way, because leather is tough, but it's not necessarily breathable. And if this kind of gives you like breathing pores and still like look super cool or whatever and give you the protection. So we're not saying we're going to make safety approved like leather jackets or whatever right away, but it is definitely something we want to explore.
That's really cool. I wouldn't have expected bikers to be into this. Was there any other kind of really surprising niches that came out of this?
Like craft people, definitely craft people. Like our one friend Tracy, she made these beautiful accents for her boot. We're using the scale, right? And it's just like just a few pieces of scale, and I'll send you the photo later. And she painted it like a really nice metallic turquoise, then add some like silver chain to it, and it's just lovely. Like to see people take your product and run with it. Another one of our friends, Dawn, she took some of the chainmail and she started using it to fill the holes in her ripped jeans, kind of thing, and it looks really cool. So it's just like that's the fun thing, right? So you just buy a simple like sheet, and it comes like flat like this, and then you have to actually like weave it together. But then it gives you all that flexibility because it's not pre-made, that you can like apply it how you want and paint it how you want. And that's kind of what we wanted to do with it. So let people's imaginations go wild.
Yeah. So you had prior experience with foam, but was this kind of this was your first experience kind of building your own product from scratch, right?
Yes, this is like I've always noodled with things like on my own, like casually cosplay. I never did full-blown cosplay, mostly because I also do a lot of the hosting at the expos and things like that. And most of the hosts, we're not supposed to stand out, so we don't cosplay kind of thing. Or if I go like, even though I've gone to San Diego Comic-Con like 7 times so far, I don't cosplay to that show either because as my comic book colorist is my background. I'm going for professional reasons, and I'm not saying that you can't cosplay and be professional, but in general, if you're doing meetings stuff like that, like cosplay is not what you have in mind. Like I'm working on my portfolio, I'm not working on my Captain America costume kind of thing. So that's kind of what happens. So it just kind of like I do casual cosplay, but I've never actually done full blown, like I would say quote unquote like professional cosplay myself. And to top it off, to develop a product, this is all brand new. I've never developed a product before.
Okay, so you're like the perfect person to ask. If you're just starting out, like starting fresh, you've never developed a product before, what do you do first?
Get your ideas down and perfect it. That's the first thing. Like figure out what works and just test it and play with it and make it so that way it's something that you want to buy. So
testing it and like testing it with your clients as well, I assume.
Oh yeah, and then you send it out to your friends. It goes, hey, check this out, right? And
you get some brutally honest feedback. Either this is awesome or I don't get it.
Yeah, and like even doing and then challenge yourself too. So me doing that Make Fashion show, I never made a corset in my life, and I and I'm using this brand new thing that like has never been done before, and like, oh, I'm gonna make a scale mail corset out of this foam product that doesn't exist because we just invented it, kind of thing. Thanks, man. So I'm just gonna run with this now, and that's kind of what happened. It's just kind of like. You have ideas, don't be afraid to experiment, and don't be afraid to push your boundaries.
That's great advice. So the next thing I wanted to know is kind of now that you've got the Kickstarter, it's coming up to the end of the month, so it should be pretty close to done. What comes next?
Honestly, it's going to be all production, like to fulfill all the Kickstarter orders. In the meantime, we are also looking at as the pandemic seems to be, things are slowly opening with the pandemic. And if it becomes safe to travel, we're hoping to do comic conventions again. Well, I said again, but really, as Foam Armory, it'll be the first time. And of course, develop more product. And I'm shooting to have retail ready before Christmas season.
Okay, so big goals for the year.
Yeah, I have lots of goals, and I already have new product ideas. I'm gonna have to sit down and talk with Ben. He knows about them already, but I need his lovely aeronautical engineering brain for something here. So we do have like future cool products in the works. Oh, and also a lot of something else that we had for a lot of feedback from our clients is making kits. So even though so right now as it is, we just send these sheets out and then say have at her, right? But say someone wants to make like a really cool Viking helmet or something like that. So having like a pre-cut kit with the parts you need, and all you have to do is assemble it and paint it yourself, that kind of thing. That's and then you can customize it, of course, your own way too, because we really want to encourage your own creativity to go into these things. But a kit is a good starter point especially for people who are new at this. Like I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had one more question that was kind of like, pie in the sky. If you could have your dream influencer collaboration, who would that be with? Because Adam Savage has been great, but I'd love to know, kind of thinking bigger and kind of expanding out, who would you love to collaborate with?
Oh, what a workshop. And what a workshop. They're the guys, if you don't know, they did Lord of the Rings. That's the special effects house. Definitely, I would be mind blown if we can work on a What a Workshop production.
That'd be phenomenal. Well, fingers crossed for 2021/2022.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Well, this has been a great chat. I think people are going to get a lot of value in seeing kind of what's involved in creating a product-based business and kind of learning from your journey, and kind of also considering what they might delve into in terms of creative projects now that they've got this new medium available to them. Now, if people want to contribute to the Scale Mail Kickstarter, it's still going on. We'll have the link down below. But where's the best place to learn about Foam Armory and all the things they can do with your products?
Well, we have a website, foamarmory.com, as well as if you sign up to our mailing list, we like to send out little things to our customers all the time. And when other people create, we would love to show off your stuff. So if you let us know that you made something really cool with our stuff, we want to show it off. We'll put it on our social media, and if you make a tutorial video, we'll definitely put it in our links as well, and our mailouts and everything. Because it's a big part of our philosophy is to grow the cosplay and costuming and prop communities.
Well, that's fantastic. All right. Well, we'll have all of your social links available below as well.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for being on.